Mitikai Oresin, chapter 2. As you can see, the sun has risen. Some 10 hours have passed since I recorded chapter 1. And if you've seen chapter 1, you're going to see chapter 2. Let me remind you what Mitikai Oresin means. It is a Lakota phrase, a Lakota philosophy. The Lakota, an American Indian nation, one of the largest, one of the most highly regarded, one of the most highly respected. And the phrase means all my relations. It means we're family. Every single one of us on planet Earth, everybody, everywhere, every when throughout history and in the history to come. Family. And not family in the sense of, oh, crazy Uncle Bob over there, we keep away from him, and vile Aunt Sally, who has all these vile views, keeps her disinvited from future Thanksgiving celebrations. That's right. Lakota and Thanksgiving. I said it. That's not what it's about. It's the idea that every single member of the vast human family has purpose and should be regarded with respect. That everybody has gifts, and everybody has hard-earned wisdom, and everybody has insight. Now, granted, there are too many people in this world throughout history who have let their gifts be buried by greed and self-absorption, anger, hate. But it is our moral responsibility, it is our sacred task to evoke that goodness from them, to unearth it. And our sacred responsibility to allow them to do the same for us so that humanity gets better. That's the whole purpose of humanity, to keep getting better. But when we have factions, loud, warring factions, who say that that section of humanity must be silenced and eliminated, and they are hateful, and they are vile, and the other side, or other sides saying the same thing. We get it all wrong. We're doing this all wrong. You have so many loud, influential people saying, screaming, really, that there are only two sides worth talking about, only two sides who have valid talking points, and then they identify them on one side and the folks on the other side as they need to be eliminated. They need to have duct tape around their mouths and rope around their wrists, and I don't know, a bracelet around their ankles. The vast majority of us who are in this vast ocean of people who believe different things, who are more open, who actually are compassionate, and who want to sit down and talk. Well, they surely don't make videos like this, or like me, they make videos like this and are soundly ignored. True compassion is listening and figuring things out and seeing consequences. Now, it's absolutely true that the left is very good, or I should say very bad, at creating anger and using that fury to dismiss vast swaths of the population, calling them racist and Nazis and pieces of, and all the other wonderful things they say, and they actually get brutal. They actually use violence. Whereas on the right, they will make very salient points, but then drop in these terms saying that they are just as dismissive, just as harshly judgmental. I was reading an opinion, an editorial by someone on the right not too long ago, and made some very salient points, but about 3/4 through dropped the term everybody on the left that he was making the points against, he dismissed them as sick freaks. And this kind of thing happens often. Sick freaks, degenerates, morally reprehensible, etc., etc. So it's all about labeling and dehumanizing the folks on the other side. Again, there are so many other dimensions, so many other factors, so many other sides, if you will. But even they get labeled as inconsequential. And so many people, especially on the left, if anybody has an objection or anybody raises a question about policies that are embraced by the left, they are dismissed as hate. Oh, so you don't want this, so you choose hate. When did the definition of hate become so incredibly razor-sharp narrow? It's not hate. It's actually compassion. It's not compassion to come out and say, sick freaks. It's not compassion to dismiss folks on one side or one faction as degenerate or morally repugnant. But it is compassion to say, hey, let's think about this. Let's think about the consequences. Let's think about how this affects everybody and not just your group. I'll give you one example. Transgenderism. Transgenderism is a thing. I believe in it. But for about 50, 60 years, there has been data accumulated on teen suicides in the US. And in the mid-90s, it was at its peak. And about a decade later, it was at its lowest point. It's since picked up again, not at the mid-90s level, but trans activists would have you believe that the number one cause of teen suicide, the driving force, is denying somebody's gender identity. They say, if you don't embrace the gender identity, if you don't embrace gender affirming policies, then you are part and parcel to teen suicide. You are part and parcel to maybe your own children's suicide and suicide ideation. That is incredibly irresponsible to make such a bold claim. Behavioral scientists have been trying to figure this out for decades since the studies first started. And now the activists come along and say, hey, we've got it all figured out. You know, if that were true, then the suicide rate, I was about to say it would have been constant, but it would have been much, much worse decades earlier, like when I was growing up, when there was a lot of homophobia. And transgenderism really wasn't acknowledged except in the smallest circles, and completely dismissed it, completely just spat upon. It would have been much higher. But no, trans activists say that we have found the reason, and if you don't believe in this reason, then you are hateful, you are homicidal by allowing these suicides to continue. Oh my goodness, I'm coming up to 10 minutes. All right. We'll go to chapter 3. Peace. 4 fingers.